Hey guys, I'm Uncle Joel with Pen and Reel, where we talk about comic books, video games, TV shows, movies, books, and more. We'll do reviews, speculation, ideas I have as a writer for what I would do if I was writing the movies or comics, and so on. Please leave a comment to let us know what you think. Really appreciate the feedback. If you like what you see, hit like and be sure to subscribe. And with that being said, on to the video. So on this watch through of The Empire Strikes Back, I was really trying to set aside the thought of this is everybody's favorite Star Wars movie. Really trying not to think about how much people like it, how much it's revered, and just view the movie for what it is. So if you've watched my other videos, you know I'm not a big fan of the opening crawl, but I think the opening crawl is actually okay in this one. It gives just a little bit of context for the state of things, but it doesn't really go too far into explaining certain events or detailing character progression or anything like that that I feel like we should get in the movie. There's just a little bit that's picking up from where we left off in A New Hope, and then just giving us a little bit of context for where we're going to be now at the start of the movie. So yeah, I actually kind of appreciate it. So I really appreciate the character development for Han in this movie, especially at the beginning. I think it was a great decision to show the character as very insecure, and yet still displaying this bravado and this false sense of security. He's constantly antagonistic and he's constantly pretending that he's okay with things when very clearly he's not. It plays as the strong man who doesn't know what to do with his feelings. And when he's forced to confront them, he reacts in a childish manner because he just ignores them rather than actually dealing with them. And so from a psychological level, I really appreciate what they've done with him, and they do a great job of laying the groundwork for his romance with Leia. And there was one sequence that I felt did a phenomenal job of building Vader up, and I'm talking specifically about the scene where he force chokes someone through the video chat. Like, that to me says it on a whole different level. Like, this isn't just someone nearby using the Force on you. This is somebody using the Force across the void of space. And so even though it's a quick, simple sequence, it says a lot about the world they're living in, about the Force, and about Vader himself. And then we come to Yoda. Now, I love Yoda, but this movie, when contrasted with the prequel trilogy, really presents a lot of difficulties for me. First off, Obi-Wan says that Yoda instructed him. Now, the way that's worded suggests that Yoda was Obi-Wan's teacher. And that may have been true when Obi-Wan was younger, or maybe in between movies after Qui-Gon Jinn had died, Yoda trained Obi-Wan somewhere. But in this series, I'm trying to stick with the rule that if it's not displayed in the movies, then we can't make any assumptions. And so with that rule in mind, in the prequel trilogy, we don't really get the sense that Yoda trained Obi-Wan. I don't recall any lines of dialogue talking about Yoda training Obi-Wan. And so the way that this is phrased here, it feels to me like a continuity error. The prequel trilogy should have made more effort to show that Yoda trained Obi-Wan. But then there's another issue I have with the portrayal of Yoda. The Yoda that we get here is super playful, super quirky, super weird. And you just don't get any sense of that character in the prequel trilogy. Like, honestly, they just feel like completely different characters to me. Now, yes, he's a hermit living in exile, and so that could mess with your mind a bit. But I don't really see that progression from the Yoda that we get in the prequels. Now, personally, I would have preferred if the Yoda we had in the prequels was a bit more mischievous like this. Or at least give us a bit of a hint of this is where the character could eventually go if left in isolation. As it is, it's difficult for me to accept that the Yoda from the prequels eventually turned into the Yoda of the original trilogy. And honestly, I much prefer the Yoda of the original trilogy. And now, one of the parts of the movie that I felt made it a little bit less than perfect was pretty much everything with the Millennium Falcon fleeing from the Empire. Now, this wasn't completely useless, as it did do a number of things. It showed just how determined the Empire would be. It did a lot for world building, like the sequence with the asteroid, showing the strange alien life on the asteroid. Did a great job of just showing how hostile and dangerous this universe can be. And we did get some good character interactions and some good character development from it. But as a whole, it felt like they were just kind of wasting time trying to keep the characters on screen and trying to keep you interested in them for what would eventually come for them later on in the movie. Now, that being said, these sequences did a great job of breaking up Luke's training on Dagobah, of keeping the momentum of the movie going forward and preventing the movie from feeling a bit too slow. So I have a bit of mixed feelings about it. On the one hand, I do feel like most of the sequences with the Millennium Falcon, up until they're captured, is a bit superfluous. But on the other hand, it does do a pretty good job in the structure of the movie itself. So I wouldn't say it's unnecessary, just personally, a lot of it was uninteresting. And one of the things that I've heard a number of people complain about in the sequel trilogy is the way Kylo Ren and Rey communicate across space and time. For a lot of people I've talked to, it's difficult for them to accept that they're able to use the Force to essentially have a phone call with one another. But we basically see that here between Darth Vader and Luke. The telepathic communication between Darth Vader and Luke is actually quite significant to the original trilogy. And so I do feel like that critique of the sequel trilogy is a bit misplaced, but I do find it really interesting that they developed that here with Vader and Luke. So overall, there's not really much I can complain about this movie. It's pretty solid throughout, and even the sequences that I didn't find super interesting served a good purpose for the structure of the movie and developing the characters and getting them in place for what's to come, so I can't really fault it too much. But now, thinking about why people like this movie so much, I think it's because it's less epic. A New Hope was all about saving the galaxy and destroying the Death Star, and then Return of the Jedi is all about saving the galaxy and destroying the Death Star and defeating the Empire. But The Empire Strikes Back is far more personal. And I think that's what makes this one so much better, is we've already had the setup. This is not yet the conclusion. So now we're going to explore the characters, get into their heads, figure out what makes them tick, and start to expand things. And I think that's what makes this movie so strong, is it's focused on the heart more than anything. We've already laid the foundation, and now we're building. We have the rebels on the run, the stakes are more dire, it's less focused on these big set pieces. In fact, the big set piece that we get is at the beginning, and then we get it out of the way, and then we focus on the characters. And really, this is the central movie of the entire saga. Not only number-wise, 5 is directly dead center, but this is the movie where it starts tying everything together. This is where we start really seeing the battle between the light side and the dark side, and the war raging within Luke between the light side and the dark side, and giving into his emotions or really focusing and doing what he needs to do. Which is made all the more poignant by the prophecy of the Chosen One, who's supposed to bring balance to the Force. Where now we see the battle between Luke and Vader in trying to pull him towards the dark side, and Luke trying to fight back against that and go more towards the light side. And then of course we get the reveal of Vader being Luke's father.
What?
We get a lot of presentation of the Emperor and the idea that Vader is trying to bring Luke to Palpatine at Palpatine's request. And so there's just so many different ideas and core plot points being brought together and being brought to the forefront that this is really probably the key movie. And Return of the Jedi is more designed to tie up the plot points and bring everything to a conclusion, whereas this movie is very much growing the characters, defining the stakes, and really preparing you for what's to come. So yeah, those are my thoughts on The Empire Strikes Back in regards to the entire Skywalker saga. If you enjoyed the video, please help me out and hit like and subscribe. And join me next time when we explore Return of the Jedi. And until then, this is Uncle Joel saying, stay tangible.